One of the more interesting questions that appears to me as we read through the book of Breshit in particular, how do we take and extrapolate from the lives of our avot and imahot, from the patriarchs and the matriarchs, and bring it to modern times, dealing with modern issues? Take the state of Israel as a very good example. We have enemies all around us. Right? The enemies are attacking. They come after men, women, and children. We need to protect the honor and the lives, of course, of the Jewish people. And yet it has to be balanced with world opinion. It has to be balanced with threats from our enemies. Where do we look for guidance? And one of the places certainly is Parshat Vayishlach. The interaction between Yaakov and Esav, a very classic example, but not my interest this morning. This morning I want to focus on Dinah and Shechem, Yaakov and the brothers, because here you have an example where a member of the Jewish people is attacked, and the brothers, the Shvatim, the people of Israel at that time, come to defend her honor. We know the story. All right, they make this deal, there's a ruse, and Shimon and Levi go and slaughter all of the inhabitants of Shechem. The very end of that section, you read as follows. Yaakov is actually not pleased with the brothers' actions. Vayomer Yaakov el Shimon ve'al Levi achartem oti. You've muddied me, as it were. Lahabisheni biyoshev haaretz. Aknani aprizi, etc. Right? We don't look good. You've provoked the people around us. Right? We're small. Vani mitei mispar. We're small. They're all going to gang up on us. All the surrounding nations are going to come together and they're going to destroy us. And the brothers respond, Vayomru, Hachazonaya aser achotenu. They're going to turn our sister into a prostitute. We can't stand for that. And here you have those two ideas, right? Protecting the people, protecting the image, the honor. We don't get trampled anymore. We're a people, when you come after us, we're going to come back at you. And yet Yaakov, right, is worried about the response. We see later when the brachos are given that Yaakov has the final say, but in this story, it seems like the brothers carry the day. There is no response. Only later, when Yaakov is giving out the brachos in Parshas Vayechi, he curses Shimon and Levi and their anger. The events, right, they sound very similar to what we're experiencing today. Right, somebody shoots rockets at us. Right, they're coming after vulnerable elements, civilians, and we have to respond. Right, we can't be a trampled people anymore who won't respond. But what's the proper response? Now, one might be tempted to say, let's just go wipe everybody out. But that's certainly not the right response. We see that from Yaakov later on. He's very upset, and he does get the last word. So how do we extrapolate? How do we learn from this story to what we're supposed to do today? So I heard this idea from Rabbi Menachem Leibtag actually almost 30 years ago. But it rings true, and I think it helps us with all the stories in Bereshis. And he explained as follows. You can't take an event that happened 3,700 and change years ago and then just say, well, that's what they did now, so now we're going to do that today. Circumstances change. The enemies change. The nature of the threats changed. The world changed. Right? There are so many things that are different. So you'd be tempted to say, okay, so we learn nothing from those stories, if indeed that's correct, right? The times indeed have changed. But that's a terrible approach also. This is our Torah. It's our moral guide. It's supposed to inform us and teach us, guide us. So what he said was, the Torah's job is not to teach you exactly what to do by giving you instructions. The Torah, right? In that sense, the Torah is not an instruction manual. When somebody comes to attack you, you wipe them out or you don't. Because it's impossible to set guidelines in these areas for the entirety of the future of the people of Israel, because times are different, circumstances are different, enemies are different, threats are different. What is the Torah giving us? The Torah is laying out the issues that we're supposed to think about. Right? Here are the parameters. Here are the guidelines, as it were. These are the issues Hashem wants us to think about when we're making these decisions. And then we have to make the right decisions for our time, right? We hope that the government of Medinat Yisrael will make the right decisions to balance those issues. But what are those issues? That's what the Torah is teaching us, right? The Torah is teaching us, number one, right? Jewish blood can no longer be cheap. Hachazonaya aser achotenu is real. We stand up for each other. When somebody comes for a member of the Jewish people, they come for all of us, and we have to respond. Nevertheless, the response has to be commensurate, and it has to be with an eye towards, what is the world going to say? Is it going to provoke everyone to come, gang up on us, and maybe fire 150,000 missiles from the north? That's a real factor. It has to be taken into consideration as we deliberate on what to do. And of course, the last piece, right? Yaakov doesn't curse them, he curses their anger. When we respond, right, to protect the people of Israel, we don't do so out of anger, we don't do so out of revenge, we do so because we need to protect the Jewish people. And those are the issues the Torah lays out for us. Of course, it's our job to fight on behalf of those who are attacked. We do have to take into account all of those other factors, world opinion and surrounding nations and different threats. And we have to make sure that our intentions are sincere, that we do so out of a desire to protect the Jewish people and not out of vengeance or anger. That's what the Chumash is teaching us. That's the role of these stories in trying to help us being the Jewish people, the state of Israel, right, formulate its plans as it deals with these questions. Hopefully, we hope, of course, we daven sincerely, we daven fervently for peace, and we daven that Medinat Yisrael, that its leaders should be blessed with the wisdom to make the right decisions, to keep us safe, and to protect all of Klal Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom.